Hello everyone, I know that I haven't posted much this month, but there are some movies that came out this month that I didn't really care much to see, and plus college has been keeping me occupied, as well as I'm working on a new ranking video that'll hopefully be out in December, but I've managed to see 2 movies this past week. The first movie I almost didn't want to see, but I sort of convinced myself to see it anyways, though not really because all of the hype that this movie was getting sort of won me over into going to see this movie, and that movie was Wicked. Now, I'm not a big Broadway musical fan, so every time I saw the trailer for this movie, it was the most I really don't care for this movie. But I went into it not really expecting much, but I gotta say, this was a huge surprise. This movie is really good? Like, what? This is probably one of the better Broadway adaptations to come out in recent years. They somehow managed to pull this one off. Now, I've never heard of the Wicked musical before this movie's announcement, and I honestly thought this was going to be made by Disney, but no, it was from Universal. Now, I've seen other musical adaptation movies before, but I've never seen it handled this well. And what kind of worries me before going into this movie that it was almost 3 hours long, and this was only part 1 of 2 parts. To my surprise, the pacing was really good. I don't think I was bored throughout its runtime, and I was pretty entertained throughout all of it. There are moments that I didn't really expect to like as much. Both Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo do give the best performances in this movie, and I just love their dynamic in the movie, and they both portrayed the characters in a fun and entertaining way, and whenever they're on screen together, I just can't help but love both of them. I also really like the other characters as well. They were pretty fun to watch, and they do have enough screen time and it's just perfect. The production design and the visuals were really beautiful, and I didn't really expect to like it as much. Plus, I think this movie has the best ending I've seen in a movie all year. I won't spoil anything, but it actually had me pretty emotional. Plus, the music was a lot of fun, and it didn't really feel like it drags, and they do contribute well into the story. Let me remind you that I've never seen the musical before, so I didn't know what the songs were gonna be, but I didn't really expect to like it as much as I did. I've listened to both Popular and Defying Gravity a few times after coming out of the movie. Now, as much as I liked the pacing, there were some scenes that do tend to drag for my taste, but it didn't really bother me as much as I was expecting. Well, yeah, that's my review on Wicked. I didn't really have much to say about it, but it was really good. Plus, I'm hoping that this could get Oscar recognition, but I doubt that they'll do that. But we'll see, I guess. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how part 2 will be in a year. So I'm giving Wicked a 9 out of 10. Go watch it before people tell you it's overrated. Alright, let's talk about the next movie I saw, which I do have a lot more to say than Wicked. Moana 2 is out, if you didn't know. Now, I was more skeptical about this sequel than any other sequel that has been released in the past few years. I was worried, but I was also kinda looking forward to it at least. Now, I really liked the first Moana movie a lot. I think that movie made a huge impact on a lot of people, but I can't stop thinking that prior to this movie's release, that this sequel really just felt like an afterthought. What do I mean by that? Well, remember back in 2020 that there was gonna be a Moana Disney Plus series in the future? Well, guess what this sequel was supposed to be? I made a video about it earlier this year about my concerns when they did that announcement. Earlier this year. But I guess I'll give it the benefit of the doubt that maybe this sequel won't be that bad, right? Well, I finally went and saw the movie, and oh boy, I do have some thoughts about it. The fact that this sequel was supposed to be a series, there was a lot of stuff that either felt underdeveloped or just didn't really have a clear focus on what they wanted the story that they were making for this movie. Well, let me give you the positives first. Moana and Maui still do have a pretty good dynamic in this movie, I suppose, and they are some of the highlights of this movie. You can tell that Olivia Carvalho and Dwayne Johnson love playing these characters, and I do respect that a lot, and they do save this movie from being somewhat boring, but I feel like they didn't really interact that much and I didn't really feel as strong than the first. The third act of this movie was not what I was expecting, and it was honestly pretty satisfying, and I really like how well done they did it. Plus, the soundtrack was just as good as the original in my opinion, but I think that's where my positives end. There are a lot of themes and concepts in this movie that you could tell that this was supposed to be a series, and I feel like a lot of it that I assume was for this story is for the series. Feels like they crammed in a lot of stuff in here and it just comes off as really disjointed as a result. Each scenario they go through just feel like I watched 5 episodes of a series. As soon as the movie started, it felt like an opening on how a TV series would start. But that's just me probably. The side characters didn't really add much and they don't really have a lot of moments that stand out. They were just there for comic relief to me, and they don't really have a lot of conflict with Moana, and they were mostly forgettable. The quote-unquote villain just felt really non-existent, and I kinda forgot that she was in the movie, and the fact that the way they marketed her felt like it was gonna be a big deal. But yeah, don't expect too much from the villain. It was pretty underwhelming. Also, the songs didn't really do it for me for the most part. The songs aren't bad, I guess, I'll give it that, but I just wasn't really enjoying them as much as the first one, and some of them kinda irritated me, especially the one with Maui's song, that's all I'll say. Speaking of me being irritated with this movie, the middle chunk of this movie didn't really leave much of an impression for me. A lot of it goes by so fast with how it was paced, and it wouldn't let me enjoy a lot of moments from what they had going on. There's a screaming goat joke in this movie, remember how that was funny 10 years ago? And that made me really annoyed that they put that in this movie. I see a lot of people say that the animation was the better part of this movie, and is it kinda bad that I disagree? I still think it looks good at least, but I think it's just me. But I feel like they didn't put as much effort into their movement, and it just looks really janky for the most part, and it's almost similar to how Encanto's animation looked, but that movie made it look better, cause again, this was supposed to be a series made for Disney+. I know I said that a lot, but I just really want to come across on how much of a strange step they took with that. But at the end of the day, this movie was not bad, I guess. It had its moments and it was watchable. But I guess I feel really bad and disappointed that I wish this movie would have made this sequel from scratch, instead of just taking that TV series plot and making it into a movie. Yeah, Disney, I know your last movie didn't do very well, and I found this tweet on exactly what decision they made when they made this movie. But come on, this was a pretty risky move to take, but it mostly played it safe with the story, and I still wish it would have been better. But I do like it better than Kung Fu Panda 4 at least. So yeah, I'm giving Moana 2 a 6 out of 10, because of that third act makes up for it for me. Plus, this movie is gonna make money either way, so I guess watch it. Or not. Oh, I can't wait to see the live action movie. That will for sure make a comeback.